Tonight on CTV News, tragedy in YMana. 3 family members die after a fire rips through their home. The investigation into the alleged murder of a Riccarton man is far from over, and breastfeeding advocates call for more maternity leave.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening, welcome to CTV News, now streaming live every night at ctv.co.nz. And we begin tonight with a tragedy in YMana. The 3 members of the Nepalese family who died in the YMana fire this morning had moved to the town following the Christchurch earthquakes. The bodies of the parents and a child were found in a flat above the Everest Indian restaurant on Queen Street around 7:45. Emergency services rescued 3 other family members aged 11, 17 and 21 from a back veranda. They're in a stable condition.
The small Canterbury community of YMana, just south of Timaru, are still reeling after a man, his wife and 9-year-old son died in a house fire this morning. The blaze struck in the family's home above their Queen Street restaurant at around 7:45.
Yeah, it's obviously a tragic day for the community, and especially tragic for the family.
Emergency services says the premises was ablaze when they arrived at the scene, but managed to rescue 3 other family members located on a veranda at the back of the property. They were aged 11, 17 and 21. They're being treated at Timaru Hospital for smoke inhalation and suffered minor injuries, but are in a stable condition. Police say victim support is also involved and are standing by to do whatever they can, but the Mayor says it's a sad day for the small township.
The community's all in shock, obviously. It's not a nice thing to happen, but the big thing now is obviously to support the 3 kids who survived and make sure that they're well looked after.
The Nepalese family moved to YMana shortly after the Christchurch earthquakes, when their business in the city was severely damaged. They've been operating the Everest Indian restaurant for the past 18 months or so, with Rowley saying he knew the family personally.
I actually own a business next door to them, so I know them and I've spoken to them numerous times and that. So, we do know them reasonably well.
And it's something Rowley says he hasn't witnessed since he's been mayor of the town.
Nothing to this extent. It's particularly a tragedy and that sort of thing, but no, it's certainly not something that we've had a lot of experience with before.
The cause of the blaze is yet to be determined, but the fire service believes it was an accident. The mayor says the focus now is to support the family, with him setting up a mural donation fund for the 3 rescued children.
And I believe that the Nepalese community are getting right in behind them to support them as much as possible. I have started up a mural sort of support fund, so anybody that wants to make a donation to the family and look after the kids, they can do so at any branch of the ANZ, and it's just under the Everest Mural Support Fund. So and we've had a lot of locals already ringing and offering assistance and help, and I believe there's some donations going into that account as we speak.
The area is still cordoned off until the investigations are completed. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Police are appealing for help in locating 2 missing people. 67-year-old Antonia Luiano suffers from dementia. She was last seen in Avondale early this morning. Police are asking people in the area to check backyards and any hidden areas for her. They're also looking for 28-year-old Michael Lawson. He was last seen in Hamner Springs last night. He was driving a silver 2005 model Nissan Tina. Police have concerns for his safety because of a medical condition. Police have named the elderly man alleged to have been murdered by a teenager at his home in Riccarton last weekend, but the investigations are far from over.
Police are continuing to investigate the alleged murder of an 87-year-old man who was found dead in his Upper Riccarton home last weekend. Police today released the name of the man as Harold Richardson, but will not comment on the results of a post-mortem. 18 police officers are involved in the investigation, and forensic staff will continue to examine the man's property in Owens Terrace for the next few days. Police say they're continuing to conduct inquiries in that area for sightings of Mr Richardson or related activities on last Saturday and Sunday. A 16-year-old has been charged with his murder and will appear in the Christchurch High Court later this month. Police are calling for anyone with any information to come forward.
Some good news now. It was one of the first hospitality hubs built after the earthquakes, and a year on, Strangers Lane is still waiting for the CBD to return. But in the meantime, they're celebrating by giving to charity. Here's Chelsea Daniels.
Strangers Lane is gearing up for its first birthday this weekend, but they're not just making it all about themselves.
It's our first birthday that we opened up on August 8th last year, so we're planning a nice, fun, exciting weekend. We've got all the business we have our burger eating contest from the Lower Ninth Diner. We've got bands, we've got DJs in both Strange & Co. and Orleans. We have a special menu in Orleans for a celebration. We're doing a special cocktail as well that we're donating all the proceeds from that cocktail to charity.
The proceeds will go to the Canterbury Earthquake Children's Trust, a charity that gives hardship and school scholarships to children who lost their parents in the Canterbury quakes.
We were looking at different charities. It was all the senior staff, and we said, what's something that's good that really we don't really hear much about, as opposed to some of these other bigger charities, and we thought that was a good thing to go with.
The team will be serving up a specially formulated cocktail named Jerry's Bulldog, with all proceeds from the drink made on Saturday night going to the charity.
We're using Soda Jerry's rum and Bulldog because they're known for their tenacity, and that's just the tenacity of what Canterburyans had to go through from all this time in our first year thing. So it's a nice chocolatey coffee style drink, and it's fluffy and light, and hopefully we'll sell a lot of them to give the money to the charity.
The Strangers Lane team has seen a successful year, but it hasn't been without its challenges.
Same thing that everyone else has had to overcome. There's been traffic issues. There's been, the buildings coming up. I mean, right now might be able to feel that little vibration from them driving in piles in the buildings behind us. So I mean, there's all these little things that really aren't, at the end of the day, from what we've had to go through to what we're going through now. They're good problems to have. So and that's just the way we've been looking at it. I mean, when the roads have been closed all around us, and basically the only way we could get here is walk down a small path that was lined with cones. That was bad, but at the same time, it wasn't that bad because people still found us, and it was good. And I'm like, oh, look at this nice place, and all this amid of all this rubble.
But all in all, Rick says they're in it for the long run.
It's one of those things where you always like a challenge, and being one of the first businesses into the central area is always going to be a challenge. I think we've overcome being kind of isolated. Now as more and more stuff gets put up around us, then it's becomes more of a central location for us, and it's bring more people back to the city, which is always what we wanted to do.
He says they're hoping to establish themselves as a local joint to grab a drink or a bite to eat.
Our view on these things, we want to be like your neighborhood local, even though there's not any housing around here at the moment.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet, but we will get there one day, I'm sure.
And with the new apartments being constructed nearby in the CBD's new eastern frame, Rick's dream just may well become a reality. The apartments will form most of the eastern frame anchor project, with Fletcher's recently being chosen by the government for their build. Their design has been criticised by some for being higher end and not affordable, but once tenanted, they are set to bring the first new accommodation hub back to the city centre. And this is something which local hospitality businesses will benefit from. But they'll have to wait a year or more before the new apartments are built. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
Well, still to come here on CTV News, it was a big talkback discussion yesterday on News Talk ZB. Is Christchurch actually a safe city? We've got the details just moments away. Welcome back to CTV News. So do you feel safe, and do you feel safe living in this city? Well, a new survey says half of us are feeling less safe than perhaps in previous years. Here's Jared McCulloch.
How safe do you feel? A recent independent survey suggests over half of New Zealanders are feeling less safe than in previous years, with half of those people being burgled. However, Canterbury police say the number is much lower.
Being a victim of crime is unfortunate, and it's a tragedy for those victims. We do whatever we can to prevent people from becoming victims. In Canterbury, our burglary crime rate is still lower than what it was pre-earthquake, so we're making good gains in that area.
The survey coincides with Canterbury Police's latest operation, targeting burglary and vehicle crimes around the region. And he says burglary stats have lowered by 16% since the earthquakes, and it's a continued focus for police.
A lot of things in particular making it more difficult for offenders to commit their crimes. So that's getting out there, and that's the prevention operating strategy that we use. And education, I think, has a lot to do with it. Educating our homeowners to lock their front doors, lock their vehicles on their driveways. Many of the crimes that happen in our city are opportunistic. So if we can lock away those items, just make it harder for our criminals to steal them.
Christchurch has been exposed to a number of incidents recently, including ram-raiding of businesses around the city. Despite of these raids have happened over the last few months. This includes 3 men in a stolen van causing havoc around the city, targeting petrol stations and convenience stores, with the vehicle left abandoned on the side of the road. However, Anderson says he has some tips for residents to help police recover stolen goods.
A bit of prevention advice we can give owners or homeowners is their property and recording serial numbers and descriptions of property. There's nothing better than actually returning some property to a victim of crime.
The survey says around 30% of Canterburyans lock their doors and windows even when they're at home, and Anderson says it's something he suggests everyone should do.
I don't think it's concerning at all. If it is becoming the norm, I think it's a good thing. I would be recommending people, if they're working in their back garden or out in their backyard, that they do lock their front door anyway. I'd be recommending people to lock their cars on their driveway, even if they're at home during the day. Look, I lock my door at night, do you?
Police are hoping for a better result over the next 2 months to continue driving burglaries down. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Measures to protect our borders from biosecurity hazards are being ramped up, particularly at our airports, and it's all about keeping the fruit fly pest out of this country.
From this summer, sniffer dogs could be screening passengers as soon as they leave the aircraft. The Minister of Primary Industries wants to introduce the new move as part of a range of new initiatives from December. The move will target international passengers to contend with the annual 3.5% increase in tourism and the threat of fruit flies from Australia. Other measures include the introduction of 20 more biosecurity detector dog teams, additional X-raying of baggage, and targeting of passengers the MPI says are likely to be carrying risky goods. The ministry says identifying high-risk passengers will include specific communications to passengers more likely to carry Queensland fruit fly host materials. Dog teams will also particularly target handheld baggage, where passengers often carry fruit and other food.
Breastfeeding advocates are calling for stronger workplace policies for nursing mothers as part of World Breastfeeding Week.
Well, we're midway through World Breastfeeding Week, and the focus this year is centred on breastfeeding and the workplace. New Zealand Breastfeeding Authority Executive Officer Julie Stufkin says this year's theme of Breastfeeding and Work, Let's Make It Work, emphasises the importance of protecting, promoting and supporting breastfeeding in the workplace.
Focuses on really getting mothers to be able to be supported in the community and advocating for women to be able to return to work at a time that's supporting them with breastfeeding.
The NZBA is currently urging all politicians to support the aim to extend paid parental leave to 26 weeks. This is the second time in just over 3 years that the Parental Leave and Employment Protection Amendment Bill has been drafted.
Like many other organisations are advocating for the government to consider paid parental leave to 26 weeks, which is the full 6 months. The reason being that where that happens, there are much better breastfeeding rates. So we find that mothers are not pressured to feel like, well, what do I do now if I'm going back to work? So there is better breastfeeding rates in countries that do that.
An additional 2 weeks of paid parental leave took effect on the 1st of April this year, increasing the allocation from 14 to 16 weeks. It will then increase to 18 weeks from the 1st of April next year.
14 to 16 weeks isn't enough, and if you want to see the best health gains, then you need to see babies being breastfed for longer. So the guidelines are that you just use breast milk for the first 6 months or around then, and then thereafter you continue to breastfeed with introduction of complementary foods.
Julie says there's a lot in breast milk that just can't be manufactured, and the mother's breast milk is genetically altered to be unique to each baby.
One of the things that's recently started to be talked about a lot is a thing called the microbiome, which is the bacteria that we have on our bodies, and they help provide a protection against illness. Human milk has unique bacteria that you can't get from anything else.
The NZBA manages the Baby Friendly Initiative, a program launched in 1991 by UNICEF and the World Health Organization to ensure all maternity hospitals become centres of breastfeeding support. The program runs in 156 countries amongst 20,000 hospitals, with New Zealand being one of the leading nations. And Julie says that 99% of New Zealand babies are born in baby-friendly hospitals, which is a huge achievement.
The Ministry of Health require the baby-friendly hospital initiative to be in all maternity units, and so New Zealand has one of the highest rates in the world for baby-friendly hospital. We have over 93% of our maternity units accredited.
Julie says that breastfeeding shouldn't be frowned upon in public places and that you wouldn't turn a regular person away from a meal in a cafe, so why should you turn away a baby having its meal?
It's quite interesting in the fact that we've probably taken what was designed to be an important part of health and nurturing a child and made it into something that's highly sexual. We would just be encouraging that it's able to be used for what it's meant for, which is to feed the baby.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
And still to come here on your local news service, the region's weather forecast. Welcome back to CTV News, and a positive story now for Waimate. The town's new stadium is all go. Building has begun on the $3.8 million project, and once it's finished, it's expected to meet the town's sporting needs for the next 50 years.
The Waimana District Council released plans this week for the construction of the town's new stadium. The council has held a groundbreaking ceremony for the new stadium, which is expected to have a life of up to 60 years. It is set to be a $3.8 million project, with building to begin in the beginning of September.
What we did was the council committed $3.8 million to the build of the stadium, and then we had a local businessman, Mr. Gary Rooney from Rooney Earth Moving, who's also supported the stadium, and through that we've got a two-court facility instead of a single-court facility. And we've set up a fundraising committee, and they've been tasked with raising $950,000 externally. The council has turned around and said that they wanted a quarter of the total council commitment raised externally.
Mayor Craig Rowley of Waimate says the project hopes to be beneficial for future generations of the town.
This is sort of future-proofing Waimate, I suppose you'd call it, because like we're building this for the kids of today, so that they've got somewhere to play sport, and also for the other older citizens of the town, so they'll have a warm, modern facility to play their indoor bowls and other different sports. So it's just huge for the town.
The idea took a while to get off the ground, but Craig says that it's been a collaborative effort.
This has been a bit of a long-winded sort of project. It started approximately 10 or 12 years ago with various groups trying to get a stadium built. There's been several proposals from different community groups to get this up and going. The council has sort of taken it by the reins in the last 12 months and driven the project, so now we're at the build stage.
The council received some generous donations, including $500,000 of lottery funding, and Alpine Energy donating a hefty cheque.
We got a beautiful cheque yesterday from Alpine Energy of $250,000, so it's great to see them getting in and supporting this facility like they have.
The small town does have a stadium at the moment, but Craig says that this would be a huge improvement.
Actually, an ex-army drill hall that was converted to a stadium. There's no heating in it. It's a single court facility that actually doesn't meet the basketball criteria guidelines, so this is going to be a huge improvement on what we've got.
The stadium is set to be completed by mid-next year. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
And now it's time for Canterbury's weather.
to Canterbury. Well, after a couple of days of unusually warm temperatures for this time of year, it was back to normal this morning with light frosts and temperatures between 10 and 12 degrees for most places. Today's highs 11 for Timaru and 13 for Temuka, Geraldine and Waimate. Central Canterbury, Lisa, you took out today's high on 14 degrees, 13 degrees for Akaroa, Methven and Darfield, and 12 there for Christchurch and Ashburton. Moving further north, 12 degrees was also shared by Kaikoura, Cheviot and Oxford. A little bit warmer for Amberley, Rangiora and Culverden on 13 and 11 for Hanmer Springs. And over to the Alpine region, 9 degrees for Mount Cook today. Let's see what we can expect for tomorrow's weather for the major centres. Timaru, 14 degrees for you tomorrow, cloudy skies with sunshine peeking through, 2 for your morning. Looking to Ashburton, a similar picture with those cloudy skies and sunshine, 14 for you as well with northerly winds coming through. Christchurch, you're also sharing this trend of 14 degrees for your high, northerly winds for you and sunny skies with a bit of cloud present. Flipping over to Kaikoura, northeasterlies breezing on for you tomorrow, a little bit cooler on 13 degrees and 5 for your morning. Let's see what's happening for the rest of the Canterbury region for tomorrow. South Canterbury first, 14 degrees for Waimate, Temuka and Geraldine, northerly winds really coming on through. Central Canterbury, northwesterly winds here for Akaroa and Darfield, 16 degrees. Leaston, you're taking out the high tomorrow, northerly winds for you and Methven on 12 degrees. Looking further north, Hanmer Springs, a nice sunny day for you tomorrow. Cloudy skies for most places here with sunshine coming through. Northwesterlies for Amberley, Rangiora and Oxford. And over to the Alpine region, a little bit of rain there for Mount Cook and 13 degrees is your high. Let's see what's happening on Friday and Saturday. Friday, quite a similar day to Thursday with sunny skies and cloud present as well. 13 degrees for Christchurch and Kaikoura, northeasterlies for both of you as well. Saturday gets a little bit worse on Saturday. We're seeing a southwesterly change Friday evening, and that's continuing on Saturday, bring a few showers with it and cooler temperatures. Looking to the upcoming days for the rest of the Canterbury region, we are seeing the sunshine and the cloud out on Friday. How we are seeing a little bit of rain though and potential snow flurries for inland basins. Flipping over to Saturday, those southwesterly winds are really coming through. They're cooling down the temperatures and they're bringing a bit of rain with them. We also could be seeing a little bit of snow for Banks Peninsula and potentially snow down to 300 metres for Christchurch and 400 for Kaikoura. We will be giving you more updates though on the wintry outbreak that is predicted for the weekend as we know more information. For now, that's your weather update for Wednesday.
A bit of a milestone for Port Heights Keyfield today, opening its most expensive project in its history, costing $7 million to construct. The state-of-the-art Easy Rider chairlift was installed on the south side of the valley with 93 chairs. It can take 2,000 people up to 700 metres of stretch of the mountain every hour. And Deputy Prime Minister Bill English even got the chance to take a ride to the snowy peak. The chairlift has been open to the public since June, and Port Keyfield Director Simon Harvey says visitors' feedback has been overwhelmingly positive so far. The South Island Skifield has had a good season and more snow is expected throughout August. Good news. And that is CTV News for Wednesday. I'll catch you back for News Talk ZB from 8:35, but from all of us here, have a good night.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.